as the last few people join the Kahoot, I'd like to share with you what the purpose of this morning is. So for us as an accountancy practice, when you're in situations like that, we have for us 3 categories. So there's the short term, the medium term, and then the long term. And at the moment, we are very deep in the middle of the short term situation. So we've got people that are speaking to us, people that are ringing up, asking us questions, and it's all about surviving today. So what information are we getting, and what do we need to do today, tomorrow, the day after, so within the sort of first week, in order to make sure that we're in the best place to survive the situation that we find ourselves in. Now, we'll be taking actions, a little bit risky sometimes. It feels a little bit uncomfortable because we've perhaps not prepped as much as what we could have done or would normally do. Now, once we've got through that first sort of week, the immediate stuff, we then move into what we would call medium term. So things become a bit more planning. We might have some proper policies in place and things that we need to do in order to make sure that we're safer. And then we move into the longer term planning, which is how this situation has changed the way our business works and whether we're online all of the time or wherever we go. And on Tuesday morning, I was talking to a chap that I've known very well in New Zealand, and Adam shared with me the story of playing golf. And he said, what you can do is very often you'll turn up at the golf course and you'll turn up at the first hole and you'll select the tee that you want to use and you'll put it in the ground, and then you'll assess the wind and the rain and where the water is and where the bunkers are and the grass, whether the grass is damp, whether the wind is coming from the left to right or right to left, and where the green is and whether it's dogleg left or dog, and then what club you need and how far you're going to hit it, whether you're going to go for it. And he said, you turn up at the golf course, first hole, and all of these things are going on in your head. And he kind of described it as that's what's going on at the moment. There's all of these things, there's all of this conflict and information. There is more information out there than any of us can control. And at 5 o'clock every day, when Mr. Johnson stands up and delivers another set of information, that compounds on it. So it's a bit like standing on the golf tee. Now, nothing happens. Ultimately, the only way you can get closer to the flag on that golf hole is to hit the ball. And this morning is all about hitting the ball, which is all about what GreenStones is about. So it's about taking action. So hopefully during the course of this conversation this morning and the things that we're going to share with you, you will come up with some things to take action. And then whatever that action is, then obviously we'll inspire, challenge, and support you to take that action. So let's start with Kahoot. You just scraped in at 25. So you should, on your screen now, get some answers. So what I'm going to do is, as I start playing Kahoot, you will see the question on the screen, on the webinar screen, and then either on your phone or on your computer, there'll be 4 boxes that appear. There'll be red, blue, yellow, and green. And all you have to do is select the best answer or the answer that you believe that goes along with the question. And as I say, it's just get a bit of a feel as to how you all are at the moment. So here's the first question. Are you ready? It's a poll. Are you and your team already working from home? So are you and your team already working from home? And that's 100% is red. Over 50% of your team already working from home is blue. If it's below 50%, it's yellow. And if none of your team are working from home, then it's green. So 44% of the people on the call have already got 100% of their team working from home, which is a really fantastic number. And 28% of the people on the call have got nobody working from the team. Now, I asked a similar question of a group of accountants that I belong to, and that number was 17%. But I still think that's remarkable that for the majority of businesses, they wouldn't have been working from home. And then in such a short space of time, we've got, well, what's that, 68, 72% of businesses working from home. So that's fantastic, in my opinion. So next question on your screen, we have, is it true or false? The government are doing as much as they can to help small businesses. So we'll go slightly political. True, you believe the government are doing as much as they can for small businesses, or false, they're not doing as much as they can? All 50-50. So we believe that, well, it's a bit of a split decision, really. the government are doing as much as they can. Is half the population. I expected it to be a lot more than that, a lot more on the false side of it, given the conversations that we're having with customers. But that's an interesting answer for me. The next question. True or false again? The government are sharing information as quickly as they can. And that's blue for true. They are sharing information as quickly as they can. And red for false, please. And that's positive again. So it's really interesting. I expected that to be false. There is a lot of information out there, and no doubt they are sharing it as quickly as they can. But that's really interesting. Next question. If there was a collective response, i.e. we set up a group to share help sheets and tips and actions, would you contribute to that group? So red is yes, blue is no, maybe is yellow. And if you're already part of a group like Peterborough Business Community that's doing it, it's yellow, please. So 53% of the people on the call would definitely contribute to the group. And then another 26%, so over 3/4 of the people on the call would contribute or are already doing it, which I find is one of the best things that's come out of this situation at the moment, the sharing that's going on. So for the people that are registered on the call today, when we send the video out for you to watch, we'll also share some links as to the groups and whatnot that you can join in order to contribute. Next question. If a team member says they're self-isolating, when does the SSP start? So is it on day 7? Day 3 is blue, day 1 is yellow, and then day 4 is green. So if somebody is self-isolating, when do you believe the SSP starts? Day 7 is red, blue is 3, yellow is 1, and day 4 is green. 18 out of 18. So everybody, oh no, somebody's on day 4. So that's right. So basically, if somebody is self-isolating, you can get SSP from day 1. The next question is a slight shift. So if somebody is sick and they're not sick because of coronavirus or they are self-isolating, again, when does the SSP start? Is it day 1 red, day 4 on blue, day 7 on yellow, and day 3 on green? So if they're isolating for a reason other than coronavirus, when does the SSP start? Day 4, that's right. 11 said day 4. So we'll perhaps explore this a little bit further with Anna when we speak to Anna from GreenStones payroll department a bit later. But there's been no change to the normal sick rule. So if somebody falls over and breaks their legs or breaks a leg and they can't come to work, then the normal statutory sick pay rules apply, which means that there's 3 waiting days and then you get paid. The first day you get paid is on day 4. Next question. Has anybody claimed on their business insurance for business interruption or forced closure yet? So yes, it's been accepted is red. Yes, and it's been rejected is blue. No, not yet. And green is no, and you don't have any. This is a question that was asked a couple of times in the group. So to get a flavor, has anybody claimed on their business insurance for the interruption? So yes is red, and no, I don't have any is green. No, not yet is yellow, and yes, and been rejected. So no, not yet, 72%. And we've got 6% of people that have actually applied and been rejected, which is a really interesting number because I'm having conversations with an insurance broker that I know, and he's saying that they don't actually know yet. And until there is actually an interruption, something happens, and there's actually a claim, and as he stands, there's nobody that's lost anything significant enough in order to make a claim, and they don't know quite how they're going to handle it. So no, not yet. And no, I don't have any, but so that's really interesting. Next question. How much more wine and beer are you drinking as a result of the coronavirus? Just for a bit of fun, is it bucketfuls, loads, none? So you're not drinking anything extra, or I don't drink, full stop, end of story, and haven't started drinking as a result of the coronavirus? None. So we're all staying pretty sober around it and don't drink, but 11% are drinking bucketfuls more wine and beer in order to cope. And then the last question, in order to get a feel as to where you're at, is what I'd like you to do is share one word how confident are you that your business will survive in the next 3 months? So are you less than 50% confident? Is it 50-50%, 50-50 that you think your business will survive in the next 3 months? Over 50%, but you're not totally certain. And green is, yes, I know it will definitely survive. So just getting a sense of the confidence in the room. So also 50% of the people in the room are very confident that the business will survive. Over 26, so over 75, 3/4 of the people in the room think that it will survive, but they're not. So 25% not certain, and then less than 50% thinks that. Only 5% think that it's 50% chance. So again, that's far higher than the conversations that I feel that I've been having. But perhaps the conversations that I've been having over the last week are from people that are more concerned. So that's a really uplifting number. And I'm having to remind people when we talk to them that this situation is not permanent. It's just a dip, and we're going to come up the other side of the valley, whether that be in 12 weeks, 15 weeks, or 20 weeks time. So that's really a really interesting number. And then the last one, which was a question I was just referring to earlier, is can you describe in one word how you feel about the current situation at the moment? So just in the box that's appeared on your screen, or will appear on your screen now, just enter one word that you feel describes how you feel about the situation at the moment. Sanjay will probably be talking towards the end of the seminar. But we're looking at things like uncertain, worried, frustrated, challenged, and lonely. So thank you very much for that information. What we'll do is we'll collate it, and when we send out the email with the recording, then you can have the information as well. So let's get started and introduce you to the panel members. I've just got a question. So we've got the first question in around how do we receive the small business grant and apply for the loan. So we'll get to that in a minute. But before we go on to the questions, can I just ask the panelists to come on and, well, since I've mentioned you already, Sanjay, can you just introduce yourself and just share why you are on the call?
Okay, as you can see, I'm Sanjay Shah. I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and that's basically looking after the well-being mentally and emotionally of people. I'm on the call because I hope to be able to offer you some guidance as to how to stop some of the things that you shared just in the last question about how you really feel. So hopefully I'll make a difference.
Brilliant, excellent, Sanjay. And just while I've got Ian Forster, you've raised your hand. If you would like to, if you'd like to contribute, could you just put something in the chat, and then I'll see what it's about, and then I can bring you in at the appropriate time, please. Mark Swindale, if you could just share why you're on the call, that'd be great, please.
Well, part of the GreenStones team, I run the mastermind group side of the business. So I've been here to again, just a kind of mixed bit of information, also help with IT, as I've got a background in IT as well. But yeah, just a varied mix of things, I think, for me.
Brilliant, thank you. And then well, on my screen below Mark, we've got Colin. So Colin, you just share who you are and what your area of expertise is, please.
It's Simon. Yeah, thanks a lot for the opportunity to talk. Yeah, my name's Colin Nottage. I run a health and safety consultancy called Influential Management, and we've also got a podcast, the Interesting Health and Safety Podcast. So loads and loads of information on there for people. And what we want to do is also put the information from today out onto the podcast as well, so people can go back to it. And we're here to help.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, Colin. And then Anna, if you'd just like to introduce yourself, please.
Hello, good morning. My name is Anna. I work for GreenStones in payroll department. I'm here to answer all your PAYE related questions.
Brilliant. Thank you,
Thank
Anna.
you.
And just to let everybody know, Anna's got 2 kids bursting at the door behind. So if they burst through, then you'll know that they belong to Anna and they're not just robbing the house. Les, would you like to introduce yourself and share what your area of expertise is, please?
Yeah, morning everybody. My name's Les Pott and I run a company called Target HR and Training. We provide outsourced HR and training services for people all over the country, clients everywhere. So I'm obviously on the call to help you with any queries you've got regarding managing your people through this crisis.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, Les. And thank you, Ian, for your comment. And then last but not least, Nicola, and I'm going to start with you with the first question as well, which is the question that everybody's on everybody's lips. So would you like to just introduce yourself and then we'll fire off with the first question?
Hi everyone, I'm Nicola from GreenStones. I'm accounts and tax, so any questions on the loans, grants, any of the financial areas, I will be here to answer those questions.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So what I've got a list of questions that you entered when you registered for the webinar. We've got consultancy, emotional intelligence, lead advisor or an accountant, payroll, HR, and health and safety. So if you've got any questions on any of those specific areas, whack them in the box. And what I'll do is I'll go through the list that people have submitted, but to give priority to the people that have joined the call today with specific questions they've got to ask. So first question up for Nicola from Paul. Nicola, how do we receive the small business grant and or apply for the loans?
Okay, so the first thing to talk about is just a little bit about the grants eligibility and the loans. So there's 2 different grants that are going out at the moment. First one is if you have to have business premises. If you work from home, that doesn't count for this grant, but you need your premises to have a rateable value of 15 grand or below, i.e. you get small business rates relief. So in that case, that should be a grant for up to £10,000, and that will be expected to be given by the local authority. So we're waiting for more details but we're expecting that will come straight through the authority. So that's the first grant. The second grant is bespoke to the hospitality, leisure and retail sectors. So obviously this is a sector that is largely being affected by this and by the closures that the government have announced. So in this category, shops, cafes, restaurants, pubs, hairdressers, there's a long list that has now gone live. So if you have a specific industry, just shout and we can confirm that one. Any property with a rateable value up to 51,000 can get a grant of up to £25,000. So the size of the rates bill is likely to determine this, and that will be clarified again. Further information about that will be coming shortly. So just to also confirm with that sector, there will be no business rates for the next 12 months as well, and that will automatically go through from the local authority. We're not expecting there to be any claim from that. All the news so far is saying that that's automatic. Those are the grants. And then just on the loans. So the loans are being done directly through the bank. So in the eventuality that you can't guarantee the loan yourself, the government will guarantee the loan for you. So at this point in time, we're just waiting, we're liaising with the banks for confirmation, and we're expecting details of this early next week. But those loans for the business loan interruption scheme and the other loans the government are putting out will all be through the banks, and they're open to any business, including charities.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nicola. And I just off the record, so I know a couple of bank managers that will speak to me without it being official. And I've been told by one that I'm very close to that that will be Monday, and that they've moved heaven and earth in order to put the procedures in place in order to do that for Monday. And just also to reiterate Nicola's point, these are not free money. They are not loans. They are what they call government-backed loans, so the government guarantees. So if you've got the security yourself, you will be asked to put that security up against those loans. Now, we very often get asked about this, and depending on how you own your own house, so If it's just you, or if it's you and a partner, there are, what should I say, ways that might be structured so you don't have the security, so the government will back that loan. But as it stands, the government are only backing 80% of that loan. So the remaining 20% either needs you to put down as a deposit, or the bank to go for it. So it sounds very good, but it's not necessarily as good as perhaps what you think it is. Is that a fair summary, Nicola?
Yeah, definitely.
And then a second point on that is that you will need your financial information. So you're not going to be able to just rock up the bank and get a loan. So if your accounts are not up to date, then I am suggesting that you speak to your accountant and get them up to date, certainly within the last, if your year ends within the last 6 months. And also you'll probably need a set of financial projections. And I've got some questions here as to how we can do that. So that's basically the small business grants, as they're being called. And the loans. Now, if anybody's got any other questions around that, because I know it's something that comes up a lot, then please do, and we'll come back to it. I've got Andy. We are a maintenance company whose clients are critical care homes and schools. We are at present still needed because of keeping critical services going. How do we ensure we are accepted as a critical workforce if there's no hot water, gas, electrics, refrigeration, or whatever, so they cannot operate? So does anybody in the room have an opinion on how they guarantee that they're accepted as critical services? No. So from my opinion, Andy, again, having spoken to a number of people, and this is probably not the official line, but when you speak to the council, they are being very relaxed about how things are interpreted. So especially around food outlets at the moment and pubs and clubs. So my understanding is if you consider yourself to be a critical workforce, then you can go about your normal business, and until something changes, i.e. the country's locked down or whatever happens, then that won't change. So I'm not sure I've answered the question, but the government machine and the local council machine, in my opinion, is very relaxed at the moment as to what they're doing around it. Another question that comes up a lot from Simon. My staff are working full-time on redesigning, recreating. Sorry, I thought it was a tax question. This is a slightly different question. So I've got two questions from Simon. The first question from Simon that comes up a lot is, can I get a delay on or an extension on my VAT payment due to go out in May for the January and March trading period? Nicola, would you like to share GreenStones' perspective on that? And then I'll share, because I've got a community of accountants, I'll share what I'm hearing out in the marketplace.
Yes, so you can. So HMRC have set up a specific time to pay helpline just for coronavirus. So what you can, when you phone that helpline, and your accountant can do that all yourself, they want to know what you can afford to pay, but they're being a lot more flexible than normal. So whether that be VAT, self-assessment, corporation tax, or PAYE, they're being a lot more flexible. So I'll put the number in the chat so you can get that at the end of it. And we'll send that out for you also. But what they're doing, they want to know, ideally, it depends on who you get at HMRC, if I'm honest, but they need your information to be up to date. So for example, with the VAT return, if you've not filed it, sometimes they won't put the arrangement in place until it's been filed. If you at least know your VAT number, you stand more of a chance, but it's still more preferred that it's filed. The other thing to note is, if you're paying your VAT by direct debit, cancel that direct debit now, because that will get taken if you don't cancel that. So cancel that, speak to HMRC, and there's varying degrees of what they're offering. Some are offering 3 months or more. Some we've seen are offering up to 12 months, no interest and no penalties.
Yeah, so just to expand on that, there are three types of tax. You've got corporation tax, PAY, national insurance, and your VAT. And I would not pay them, so to speak, in that order, because it's definitely easier to get time to pay on corporation tax. We've got a number of stories where people have rang up. In fact, there was one where we rang up on behalf of a client for a corporation tax liability of £53,000 that was due on the 1st of April. And that telephone call lasted less than 2 minutes. And that payment was deferred for 12 months interest-free. And I'm hearing lots of things like that from the accountants community, where people are ringing up, and it's very, very easy to get those payments delayed. So fundamentally, if you take nothing else from the call, the grants and the loans, they're coming, but they're not here yet. There are quicker ways to deal with needing money from the government rather than waiting for those. So if you've got any element of concern around cash flow, then have a conversation with your accountant and talk to them about the time to pay process. And as Nicholas said, if you've got direct debit set up, cancel the direct debits, because they will take the money by direct debit, obviously, if they can. So that's answered that one for Simon. Let's just go and move slightly away from, because I'm conscious of the time, move slightly away from the financial implications. And perhaps we'll start with Colin. Colin, the whole of my team, I was told on Monday night that unless it's essential, they shouldn't be traveling and they shouldn't be coming into work. So the whole of my team has gone home, and I'm lucky enough that they can work from home. But I'm a bit nervous about the working from home regulations. If they're working from home, am I responsible for their health and safety? What happens if they have an accident at home while they're working? How does all that work?
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, you people have got responsibility for their staff. Okay. But the HSE have put some really good guidance out recently about home working, and the sort of things that that you need to be considering is the environment where people are going to be working. You don't need to do a full DSE assessment, but what you do want to do is you want to be, providing your employees as much information as you can about getting themselves set up correctly. We've got a home working checklist that we can put out, and we can provide that to people. We just get numbers, and it's just going through some of the basics, some of the simple things that you need to do to put that environment right for the individuals. Also, you've got to think about the well-being of people as well. And I think that's probably an area that that's going to get more and more prevalent. People are in isolation. The mental health, mental well-being. People are going to be asking, "Am I allowed to go out of my house? Am I allowed to walk around?" Now, at the moment, the guidance is still saying, "Yeah, you can go out. Go down the park. Spend time out there." I think it's about keeping the distance away from other people. But getting out and getting away from the environment is also very important. That's on the 20th of March. What we're told next Monday or next Tuesday may be a little bit different. But at the moment, it's keeping contact with your staff. If they're working on computers, just get a simple assessment, making sure that they not going to end up with a bad back, bad shoulders, that kind of stuff. And let them get on with it.
Brilliant. So just for me to summarize that back, I've sent my team home. And in the first instance, that you're happy with that, they can work from home. But pretty quickly, I need to be giving them some guidance about working from home. And I'd imagine it's things like not sitting in front of the television eating crisps with your laptop on you, because you're going to get back strain and stuff. So it's how to set up your workstation properly and things like that, is it?
That's exactly it. Yeah. So try and get yourself a corner and get yourself an area set up that you can put your computer on. It's also it's things like getting up and getting dressed to go to work. That's just so you're making that decision, that conscious effort. Just puts you in the right mindset as well to do some days work.
Brilliant. Yeah. You said you got a checklist that you'll share with the community?
Yes. Yeah. I'll get that. I'll get over. I'll probably put it over to you. Simon,
so my plan is, once we finish this call, subject to the recording working, but once we finish the call, I'll email everybody that's on the call or registered for the call with a copy of the video. So if I could have that, include that on your, that would be brilliant. That would be very useful. Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Colin. Okay. Les, a question for you. If we have to shut down and send my team home, do I have to pay them? So if I've got a factory or I'm going out onto a building site and they can't work because the government have told me to send the team home, do I have to pay them? That's another question that comes up very often.
Yeah, it mainly depends on what's in people's contracts. There's a concept called a layoff clause, and that means you can temporarily lay off people without pay. when I say without pay, there's a very small guarantee payment that you have to make to people of £29 a day for 5 days in any 3-month period. And that means you can actually send people home basically without pay for a temporary period of time while you get things back together. But if you don't have that clause, then really you're into a number of measures. Things like agreeing with somebody unpaid leave, agreeing that somebody will take some of their annual leave that they've accrued. You can enforce annual leave if you give twice the amount that you want to enforce as notice. So, for example, if you wanted to enforce someone to take a week off, then you have to give them 2 weeks' notice to do that. So if you've got a really difficult situation where people have got to stop working immediately, that's not going to be a great help. If you can't then introduce those types of measures, then you really are going down into a redundancy situation. And a redundancy situation may well be a reduction in hours. So if somebody's currently full-time and you want them to go down to 10 hours a week or something like that they could maybe do from home, then that really is a redundancy situation if you haven't got a layoff clause. So layoff clauses are the best get out of jail free card, but if not, then you're looking at soft measures like holiday, unpaid leave. If that doesn't work, then you are really into reducing hours and potential redundancies.
So just to go back on that, so if I want to force somebody to take a holiday, a week's holiday, I've got to give them 2 weeks notice?
Yes.
So I give them 2 weeks notice, and then the third week is on holiday, or the second week on holiday. So
so you've got to give 2 weeks notice. So it'll be week 3 that they
week 3 will be on holiday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you've got anything different in the contracts. If you've got something in the employment contract that allows you to enforce holiday, then that will kick in. But in the absence, people don't tend to have that.
No.
It's the statutory 2 weeks notice for 1 week's leave.
Okay. And then you talked about unforced unpaid leave.
Yeah.
Just how does that work? So I could say to the team today, okay, right, next week you're on unpaid leave. Is it as simple as that, or is it?
It's not if it's having to be forced, because unpaid leave is something that you can't force on people unless you've got a layoff clause. And the layoff clause is basically unpaid leave, but with the small guarantee payment. If you haven't got the layoff clause, it's got to be mutually agreed unpaid leave. I mean, I saw something on the TV the other day where a guy who was running an advertising agency in Brighton said all my staff are on unpaid leave. Now, that's all well and good if they can afford to all be off on unpaid leave. But if you're in business where your staff are, living hand to mouth each month, then unpaid leave is not that attractive. So it's very difficult.
Because I suppose if they're on unpaid leave, they can't claim benefits. So that's...
Yeah, they're still employed. So, some people might actually prefer to be made redundant if they've got a bit of service, they get a bit of money behind them and can actually then go and look for job seekers.
So if you're making redundant in this environment, you still have to pay the redundancy money, even though you might want to re-employ them in 2 months or 3 months' time. Is that?
Yeah, that's the dilemma when I'm talking to my clients. It's if they're optimistic that they think they can keep afloat and get people back in, that stops them having to go back out and recruit again. If you're making people redundant, you've got to go and recruit. You risk those people have got other jobs, those key people that you've relied on. So it is very difficult decisions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Les. And then Mark, another question that comes up or seems to be coming up a lot, and it's around the vulgarity, if that's a word, of marketing. So from a business perspective, what's your opinion on whether people should be marketing and going out selling at the moment?
Well, if it's something that they can actually deliver on, then I don't see what the issue would be. I would question that at the moment, probably people haven't got enough or don't know whether they've got the money to spend. But I think this is an absolutely ideal time to be going out marketing, because we don't know how long it's going to last. And you're going to then be the top of mind at the end of it. And I think one of the biggest things that we've seen a lot of at the moment is people giving stuff now in order to start building some of that trust and relationships now. So I think it's the ideal time. Obviously, you've already mentioned about the webinar yesterday. One of the guys mentioned about reducing the service that they give and reducing the fee so that it's not cancelled completely. And I think that was a great tip, because if you cancel it, in fact, I spoke to Colin about it yesterday as well. If you cancel something, you've then got to sell to them again. Whereas if you reduce it down and you reduce the service they get to the level that they still require from you, and then you've got more options for them going forward. But definitely a time for marketing. Definitely, people are going to be at their PCs more, sat around with their phone in their hand, watching Facebook, looking at Facebook, looking at LinkedIn. So it's a great time, really, because you're going to get people's interest.
Brilliant, thank you. And then Anna, just again, I'm conscious of the time, and I know there's a couple of payroll questions specifically about claiming the SSP. So how do I do that? Just so somebody says, they ring up, and a team member rings up and says, I'm self-isolating. What's the process? Do they need a fit note? Does it need certifying? How does it all work? And then most importantly for the business owners on the call is, how do I get my money back? So when I've paid somebody the SSP, how do I get it back?
Basically, well, an employee who is classed as a worker is entitled to SSP on day one due to coronavirus, whether they are self-isolating, anybody else in their household got the symptoms, or they've been advised by NHS to self-isolate themselves. As long as their weekly average earnings are above LEL, which is £118 for this tax year, and next tax year is £120. It's payable from day one. The employers who are classed as a small employers, which means if they employ no more than 250 people as of February payroll, they will be able to reclaim 2 weeks SSP payment back. All they need to do is to maintain the records of the basically employee names and the days they've been absent. There is no sick note required. However, the latest update says there will be online sick notes available through 111 NHS service, which is due to come. Also, there will be available an extended SSP. Say somebody got the symptoms, they have to not go to work for 7 days, and the rest of the household have to self-isolate themselves for 14 days, and say on a day 13 they start having symptoms, so that person is not due again not to go to work for 7 days. So in this case they will get it extended. How to reclaim SSP, the government is still working on it, and they will be providing further guidelines of how to reclaim it back. So the situation is changing on a daily basis. All we have to do is to follow, and we are more than happy to update you if you have any further questions in the future.
Brilliant, excellent. Thank you, Anna. Colin, quick question for you. People, forget about the people that have been sent home. I've got people in a factory and have got to be present in order to do their job. Do I need to do anything with them? Do I need to give them any guidance? Is there a coronavirus policy that I need to have in place? Should I ban them from hugging each other? How does that work? I've added the hugging bit, by the way.
I was down on a large construction site yesterday, down in Woking, and a lot of people, nearly 1,000 people on the site, and so you need to be saying to your people, look, if you're showing signs of the illness, then you've got to be telling us about it, but also taking yourself out of the equation. So people have got a lot of self-responsibility here. The sort of things that they were doing in the canteen. So they had a table set up, and it had 4 chairs at it, and they were blanking out 2 of the chairs, so people had to sit across from each other. So just little things like that. It's about the sort of the distance is 2 meters is what they're saying. So it's just about trying to introduce simple things into place so that people are just keeping themselves apart, because that's how it's spread by by contact, by you touching your face, getting it in your lips and your eyes. So having this, again, keep things simple process. Just saying to people, what it is that you expect of people. And again, in the document I'm going to send over, we've got a simple little coronavirus policy that we'll include in that for you to have a look at for businesses to take on.
Brilliant, excellent. Thank you, Colin. And I know you've got to disappear in 6 minutes. So in case I don't come back to you again, if anybody wants to find out about what you do and how you help companies, Colin, what's the best? I know you've got a podcast, but what's the best way for them to find out more about you, Colin?
Okay, so we've got we're on Facebook, Colin Nottage and IMG. The company's called Influential Management Limited. Our website is influentialmg.com. Yeah, do a search. If you go to the website, to the podcast as well, then our contact details are there. And you guys have got my contact details as well.
Brilliant, excellent. Don't go anywhere until you have to, because I've got 23 questions on the go at the minute, so there's bound to be another one in there for you. So obviously, when you've got to go, thank you very much for contributing. And if anybody's got any questions, then I'll fire them over to you, Colin, if I may.
Yeah, I'll pick up on after this, no problem at all.
Brilliant, excellent, thank you. Les, I've got another question for you, please. We deliver face-to-face services normally, but we're having to move everything online. What happens if staff refuse to change the way they work?
Right, so we're into the employment contract there. If you're asking somebody to do something that would be reasonable within their job description, which is basically part of their contract, then that's okay. But if you're trying to force someone to work quite a way off their job description, then you would have to mutually agree that, because it could potentially be a change to their contractual terms. So there's no hard and fast rule on how far off. You're going to have to make a judgment call. But even things like forcing someone to work from home could potentially be a contractual change. So the golden rule in a lot of this, and I think it's what's happening in a lot of organisations, is that you've got to mutually agree stuff with people. And I think people are in the mood to mutually agree things that are going to prevent job losses, which is basically what a lot of these measures are. You're preventing the ultimate, which is you lose your job. So, but if people do object and kick off, then you've got to really look to see whether it's close enough to their job description to enforce or take that chance to enforce it.
That's a really interesting point. So in your opinion, obviously you don't know all the facts, and I'm not holding you to anything.
No.
But if I'm delivering the same conversation virtually as to what I would be delivering face to face, that for me, that doesn't seem like a massive change, because it's the same job, it's just virtually rather than face to face.
Yeah, and I wouldn't see a problem with that. I guess it would come into the thing where if somebody's trying to be forced to do something virtually from home, if their home environment really isn't set up to do it, they could maybe object on that basis. But I would have thought there wouldn't be too much problem in doing that at all.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Les. So I know I've not touched on Sanjay not yet, and I'll be there in a minute, Sanjay. I've just got some questions. I just want to run through the list to see if I can fire some of them off without too much difficulty. I've got, could a company with premises who may not need the grant claim the grant and redistribute it to other companies that don't qualify? I don't know whether, Nicola, you've got an opinion on that, but that sounds a bit fraudulent to me. And although stuff is quite relaxed at the moment, I'm not sure that would be.
Yeah, so as far as we know, with the grants at the moment, they're going to look at so sectors, for example, they'll look at your sector, they'll look at your rates. So on that basis, they're doing it based on your personal circumstances. So as lovely as the gesture is, I'm not sure it would be acceptable, I'm afraid.
I have seen another question. I've seen that businesses under 10 will not be eligible for any of the grants or any of the help. Is this true?
Businesses under 10 employees, do you
Yeah.
mean? No, that's not true. It's based on, like I say, the rateable values and the sectors. The loans are open to the larger amount of businesses at the moment. There's no limit on the loans as far as we're aware. So no, I've not read that anywhere. I'm not sure if anyone else has.
No, so as far as I'm concerned, the only restrictions are on the industry type,
yeah.
but the size of the business, until obviously the really big ones, when it becomes a government challenge rather than a bank challenge. I've not seen. So
no.
If you've got one employee, well, no employees in certain circumstances, you can still claim. Yeah.
The main principle being, have you got premises, because it was working from home that was being stung with the grants, but there's still.
Yeah. So we had one or two people say, can we claim the rates because we're paying rates because we're working from home, and that's a definite.
Yeah.
That's a definite no. Jan, how will the interest and setup fees on the loans work? Well, as far as I know, the interest will be payable and the setup fees will be payable just the same as normal.
Some of the setup fees have been being waived if they're part of the interruption scheme. They're talking about waiving some of those setup fees. In respect to the interest, at the moment, they're saying it's going to be in line with Bank of England normal bank borrowings. So obviously quite low at the moment, but still not ideal because there is still interest on that repayment.
Yeah, so I heard from somebody yesterday that they'd got a £25,000 overdraft from a bank, and it was arrangement free, and it was interest free as well, and there was no personal guarantee. Now, I find that quite difficult. I can accept the arrangement fee, but I've never known a bank ever to give anybody money interest free. So I think what they'd heard was what they wanted to hear, but because interest rates are so low at the moment, or base rates are so low at 0.1%, the bank will still be adding their margin on top of that, which, again, generally speaking, depending on how secure you are, could be anywhere from sort of 6 to 9%. There's nobody else in the panel has heard of banks giving away money for free. No. So that's basically how that will, in my opinion, that's how that will work. Is that safe to say, Nicola?
Yeah, that's safe. Yeah, that's how I understand it too. Yeah.
Okay. How will the interest work? The telephone number, if you want the telephone number for time to pay, the telephone number is 0800 0159 559. That's 0800 0159 559. And we'll share that in the email that comes out to everybody that's on the webinar as well.
Just on those loans, sorry, Jan's just mentioned, I thought they were interest-free for 6 months. One of the types of loan, there's the business interruption scheme, that they were discussing it being free for 6 months, but it's not officially confirmed yet. So more details are coming. Was it Monday, Simon, the bank said?
Well, unofficially, I've been told Monday. But
yeah,
don't ring up your bank today and quote me for what, because I'll get shot. But yeah, unofficially, I've been told Monday. And just on that time to pay, my advice is get your accountant to make the call. Don't you ring them up, because what should I say? They might ask some questions that you don't know how to answer. We'll put it like that. So if you've got any problems or any concerns, speak to your accountant and get your accountant to make that call. Thank you, Simon. He's gone now anyway. Says universal credits are available while on SSP, and I believe that these will be available if on reduced wages due to coronavirus. Okay, I'm not sure about that, but that's a comment. Mark, staying in interest free for 6 months, which we have answered. So at 10 to 11, in order to give, and I know I've got 10 questions that have been posed that haven't been answered. And as I say, when we finish, we will continue. I will stay and answer as many of those questions as I can. Turning to Sanjay. Sanjay, when we talked about the mood question, or about how people feel, the big number or the big word that came up was uncertain. And then we had frustrated, challenged, and worried. Now, obviously, this is coming from all sorts of different places, but is there one thing that you could share with the people watching that would help them deal with those emotions? What's your thinking?
Very much. If I can kind of just give you an analogy, which is, if you want, and this is an immediate win, by the way, and if you want to reduce your stress by 99.99% immediately, then stop thinking about and imagining the things that haven't happened yet. Because you're looking to the future as what could happen, and effectively you're torturing yourself. And whilst you're torturing yourself, you're going to make crap decisions, if I can put it that way, because nobody makes good decisions when they're feeling bad. So first thing is, stop imagining the things that could happen, because they haven't happened yet. That puts you in the best position to take actions to avoid all those things. So that's the first piece of advice I'd give, because right now what I see around me, and I've been speaking a lot to my own clients, is they're all imagining the doomsday scenario. And what we forget is there have been several catastrophes around the world. Many of them involved business downturns, and we got through all of them, and we will get through all of these. But the people that will get through that are the people that look on this in a different way. I.e., they don't look at the doomsday scenario. They look at how they can take this situation as it is and come out of it in the best possible way that they can. So that for me is the most immediate win.
Brilliant. So if somebody's feeling, so just to repeat what you've just said, so because we are thinking about the worst case scenario and what might happen, that's what's causing us the angst now. And if we come back to the present, and I'm hesitating to use the word reality because I know you're challenged by that, and that's a conversation that we've not got time to get into today. But if they accept the reality and look at the reality, then they might come up with a different, or be calmer and more relaxed. Is that fair?
Absolutely. The reality is there are some severe challenges for everybody, whatever business they're in, whatever they're doing. That's the reality. But the best way to get out of this reality into a better reality in the future is not to focus on the doomsday scenario, because it's like if you ask every driver that's on this webinar to go out and drive their car later on today, but only drive their car going forward, but looking in the rearview mirror. That's the equivalent. They're going to crash very quickly, and what we imagine is what we focus on. So if you imagine the doomsday scenario, all your actions will be on avoiding that rather than being focused on creating the best way forward.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. So I'm conscious that we're coming up to the hour, which is what I promised you to start with. I've got a really simple thing that people can do over the weekend in order to help get exposed to their reality or understand their reality better, which I'll share after we've just done the thank yous, in case people have got to disappear and they want to know. So if anybody wants to find out more about you, Sanjay, how do they find out more about you? How can they make contact with you?
3 ways. My web address is on the screen. They can contact me through my website. They can connect with me on Facebook, or they can connect with me on LinkedIn. And if they forget all of those, they can pester you.
Brilliant. Thank you. And then Les, if anybody wants to find out more about the services that you offer, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, it should be fairly easy. We've got a website, which is www.target-hr, remember the hyphen, target-hr.co.uk, and there's an email address on there. But if you Google Target HR, you'll probably get it.
Brilliant. Thank you. And then from Anna, Mark and Nicola's point of view, obviously, GreenStones, if you want to speak to us about anything, then pick up the phone, give us a ring, and we'll gladly support you, whether you're a customer or not. So a huge thank you to the panelists that are on. If you need to disappear for whatever reason because of kids and all the rest of it, then please do. But thank you. If you can stick around and answer some more of these questions, that would be fantastic as well. So thank you very much for that. Just to give you an idea of something that we're sharing with our customers about the reality. So there's another question about loans again, and everybody seems to be focusing on the loans and the money. And one of these simple questions is, do you need the money, or when do you need the money? And the answer very often is, I don't know, but I just want it. If I can get it, I want it. So one of the things that we recommend people to do is to look at their expenditure. So in your life as business owners, you'll have 4 types of expenditure categorized into 2 categories. So you'll have personal, and you'll have essential and non-essential expenditure. So when I talk about essential expenditure personally, I'm talking about food, gas, electric, water, things like that. Non-essential is wine, Sky subscription, and things like that. So if you work out personally your essential and non-essential expenditure, then you've got an idea of what you need to live on. And then again, in your business, you'll have a list of essential expenditure and non-essential expenditure. So once you've worked out what's essential both personally and for your business, you'll then know what your burn rate is, how much money you need to earn a month or a week in order to live. And that's always lower, especially when people are challenged on it. That's always lower than what they actually think. Now, once you've got that number, you can then establish where you are, how much money you've got in the bank, and then do a really simple 12-week, 8-week cash flow forecast, projecting those numbers forward. Now, you might find when you do that you're not going to run out of money. You don't need any money until you pay the April wages, for example, or the May VAT bill, or whatever it is. But once you've established that position, you've then got, I would say control is too strong a word, but you've then got an idea and it removes the urgency of whether the banks are going to issue the loans on Monday or not, because you might not need it until the end of March. Now, I'm not saying do that and then do nothing. I'm just saying that it gives you an opportunity to, I want to use the word, be more rational, but be more thoughtful in the processes that you are undertaking. So I'm going to now go through the questions that are on. And as I said, if you've got any other questions, then please feel free to ask them before we disappear. So I've got a question from Simon. My team are currently working full-time on redesigning, recreating our courses so they all go online. Can we reclaim those costs as an R&D credit after the year end? So I imagine that's a question for you, Nicola.
Yeah, so basically R&D is still a great way to get cash back and obviously get some cash flow back into your business. So R&D, if you're doing anything that's scientifically or technologically even advancing the fields, then definitely speak with your accountant or speak with us if not, and we can have a talk through. So if you can do something that is R&D, or you've been doing it already, even if it was up to 2 years ago, you can make an adjustment to your corporation tax return and put that through. So yes, you can.
Brilliant, thank you. And then a question from Jade. Aside from the loans, what other options are there for small businesses?
So in terms of basically cash flow, so a little bit like Simon said, in terms of looking at your cash flow and looking normal cash flow practices of looking at your expenditure and what's required, looking at your debtors and the amounts of money that are owed to you and seeing if you can do anything to get those in. So, and when you're doing work at present with new people, chasing that up to make sure that they are going to pay you still. Just communicating is one of the key things there, just to ensure that you're more likely to be paid. There's the grants and the loans, but you've also got the time to pay that HMRC are offering is freeing up quite a lot of cash for people. And then the other thing is just to talk with your banks. So banking, financing, a lot of the government has sort of obviously issued a lot of guidance on this. If you've got any companies, anything on loan, anything on finance, HP, just talk to them, even landlords, talk to them and have a question with them about, is there any possibility? But the fundamental is to know your numbers, to know where you stand and what you need.
Yes, great answer. And I'd reconfirm that all of the usual sources of finance still exist. They've not disappeared just because the government have issued the government-backed ones. So asset financing, HP, leasing, stuff like that. Debtor financing. So if you've got a big debtor book, admittedly, that's going to be more difficult because of the situation that we find ourselves in, but you can still get factoring or confidential invoice discounting. Another great place is to go out and actually get people to pay you, get the money in now. So all of the usual financing options still exist. They've not stopped by any stretch of the imagination. So if you've got any cash flow, once you've done your projections and you know what the situation is, if you've got any concerns about not being able to pay stuff, then you need to be having a conversation with the bank and with your accountant. I know some people have ISAs that they might be able to borrow money on or draw money down on, or pensions. There's a whole host of different places, but the best person to talk to you about your specific situation obviously are your advisors. I got another question. If eligible for more than one grant, can we claim more than one?
So that one's a bit strange because of the way it's worded. So until we've got the official confirmation next week, we can't tell you for sure. However, the wording says on the 10 grand loan, on the 10 grand grant, it says for rateable value up to 15,000. And then the 25,000 hospitality grant uses the wording from 15,000 to 51,000. So it's looking like it's one or the other. But obviously, as more comes out about these grants next week, if it is both, then obviously we will make that aware to everyone in this community so that you can see that and claim both.
Brilliant. A quick question for you, Les, a follow-up question from the previous one, which I think might be coming up for a number of people. As far as they're concerned, the job that they're doing is exactly the same, but they don't want to do it. So if somebody's refusing to do it from home or do it virtually from home, what are the consequences? So if you, in your opinion, you think it's the same and they're saying I'm not doing it, is that what's your act? Is that a disciplinary process? How does that work?
Yeah, if you're confident that the job is pretty much the same, or not, doesn't even have to be the same, but it's reasonable within that person's job description, then a refusal to do it is insubordination, or they call it refusing to obey a reasonable instruction, and that's a disciplinary matter. So I think in these sort of circumstances, obviously a conversation needs to be had as to why somebody's digging in and refusing to do something that seems obviously part of their job. So rather than going straight in with disciplinary, you obviously explore it first. Right. But ultimately it could be a disciplinary matter. Yeah.
Brilliant, excellent, thank you, Les. Paul, I've got a question about your phone system. I'm not quite sure what the question is. Obviously, you're not using the office at the moment. Are you asking if you can get out of that contract? If you just want to add a supplementary question to that, I'm not sure there's anybody on the call that's qualified to answer that. But if that's what it's about, if you add a supplementary question, then I'll gladly put you in touch with a solicitor that I know that will give you a conversation about that. Or we've got an advice helpline, Nicola, with Markel. There's a legal aspect to that as well, isn't there? They could probably ring that.
Yes, there is. So we've got an advice line. Again, I can put the number out there, but with Markel, who's a tax advisory line, but they also deal with sort of legal employment, legally bits. But there is the potential to try phoning them, and if not, like Simon said, a solicitor locally.
Yeah. So if you're a customer of GreenStones, we have an advice line that we support. So customers from GreenStones can ring up and ask general questions about stuff like that. If you're not, then obviously you shouldn't really be calling that advice line. So I'd put you in touch with a local solicitor that I know. But if that doesn't answer your question, Paul, then please ask a supplementary. Yes, we wish to leave the contract because we're not using it for the foreseeable future. Okay, Paul. So when we send it out, obviously, if you want to speak to the solicitor, then let us know, and I'll pass on your details for them. Does anybody know, is there any movement for credit card companies to waive interest, or are banks to waive overdraft fees? Or another form of lending, but immediate impact on cash flow. So has anybody heard about credit card companies waiving interest or banks waiving the overdraft fees?
Well, the credit card companies have always had the option, like the mortgage companies do, for a holiday. So obviously that's not going to change. I don't know if they're going to do any more to it, but you've always got the opportunity to go. And I believe that they, again, the same as the mortgage, where your credit won't be in jeopardy, and also the no late fees and stuff like that. So I don't think that's any different. I don't think they've added anything so far, but you just need to phone up the credit card company and explain the situation. And I know that I've spoken to a few people, and they've managed to get a month's holiday. I think they say up to 3 months before they investigate it fully, and they'll do monthly rolling up until 3 months, where you just have to keep in contact with them.
Brilliant.
Just to add on that, sorry. So yesterday, one of my customers and I liaised with the bank and their credit card company on sort of their situation. And the first questions to prepare when you speak to a credit card company or the bank are, how is coronavirus affecting you exactly? So they want to know specifically where the trade has fallen in some way. And then they want to know what your current situation is. So what cash you have, what your expenditure is that's expected to go out, as well as what you can meet and can't, which is where the forecasts and your accounts being up to date really does come into that when you're speaking with the banks as well as HMRC.
Brilliant, excellent, thank you. And then I've got a question from Jan. We've never claimed retail rates relief, but possibly could have. We qualify under the new grant guidelines, but don't think the council would know. What do we do?
So again, this is, you can go to the council on this and the local authority, and there's an application that I'm currently doing for one of our customers, although Simon, I believe you have a contact as well, don't you? Who they can sort of advise you on your rateable value and the use of it, and if you're there for rates, then you can historically go back and make a claim as well. Did you have a contact, Simon?
Yeah, that's right. So specifically, if you don't want to challenge the rateable value, then go to the council and get the application form. If you want to challenge the rateable value, which is something that we did at GreenStones about 5 years ago, they come round, they assess what you've currently got, and then they go through a process of challenging the rates, and they split the difference. Basically, I think anything that they save, you get 50% of, and they get 50% of. But if you want those details, then just fire me an email, WhatsApp or whatever, and I'll gladly let you have the details of that person in order for you to be able to do that. Another question, and I've got 3 questions left. So you've got basically 3 answers in order to get any more questions in if you want to. We have a grant for small businesses that qualify for rates relief. The rate will value under 15k. And there's grants for hospitality and debt purchasing by the government for large businesses. What assistance is there for businesses that don't qualify for rates relief and are not our hospitality or large companies? Well, I think we've shared lots of different ideas as to things that you might choose to do if you don't qualify. The main one being corporation tax, PAYE and VAT, which, as I've said, the time to pay relationships are very relaxed at the moment, incredibly relaxed. I've never known us to have a call like Mark had 2 days ago. So that'd be my first port of call. Can I ask a question about the VAT? Are the planned changes still going ahead, recharging VAT and reclaiming later this year? Or has the current situation affected those plans? So are the planned changes to VAT still going ahead, recharging VAT? So I think this might be to do with the construction industry.
Yeah, so at the moment, so I had a phone call on this yesterday, but at the moment they're still planned to go ahead for the 1st of October 2020. Being a bit cynical, the government might or might not move that, but at the moment I don't think it's the top of their agenda. So my advice yesterday was, and I know it's difficult with the current cash flow situation, but to get into a good practice of affecting your cash flow, if you can, once we're through this, or once you've managed to steady out your cash position at this point in time, if you can keep your VAT in a separate bank account to get used to that practice, but it might or might not still be going ahead, but for now we have to assume it is. Yeah,
and that might change. So there's some legislation that's just changed regarding IR35. And we've been told that that's coming in on this, I think it's the 6th of April, Nicola, is that right?
Yeah, so it was due to come in on the 6th of April, and it's been coming for years. And even in the budget, they said, we don't care that this virus is happening, it's coming. And then overnight, they changed their mind about late at night.
Tuesday night, he stood up in Parliament and said, we're going to delay it for a year. Yeah. And not only that, they didn't issue any notices. So it was only the fact that we read it in the newspaper that we actually knew that was going to happen. And that's how dynamic the situation is at the moment. So the simple answer to that, I think, is to prepare for it, but it might change the day before it's supposed to come in. I got a question from Andy. Andy, we cannot work from home, but I've told engineers to travel from home to sites. I've split them up to provide wash facilities and various other things. Do you think they will fall foul of a van benefit because they're traveling from home to work and they're taking those vans home with them? I should imagine there's an official answer to that, Nicola.
Officially, yes. If the van is going home, if it's a pool van, however you want to phrase it, and it's being left at the office, it's available for others to use, and that is a pool van, so that wouldn't fall foul. If it's going home, technically, it should be a benefit in kind. Whether the government will relax their view on that, given the circumstances, we can always ask the question, but it's sort of, if you can go down the pool car route, that would be safer.
Yeah, so it might be best to have a conversation about that as opposed to answer it fully on here. So anyway, if you want to have that, as I keep saying, if you want to have that conversation, then we gladly will. A supplementary question from Andy. So the best thing, Nicola, is to go out and rent now and then claim. Is that must be? I don't quite understand that question myself. Do you understand that question?
No, rent in respect of what? Sorry.
I don't know. So if you want to throw another question in there, Andy, just to expand on that, then please do. If not, again, we'll be about for a conversation afterwards. And then the last one that I've got in the system at the moment is, if we take out a government loan, can we use it to fund longer term developments, such as obtaining residential planning permission on spare acres on our property? So is there any restriction, Nicola, on the purposes for the loans?
At present, no, there are no restrictions. The only thing is they will firstly ask you, do you have, in the normal ways that a bank would, do you have any security? So the only thing would be, if you've got some sort of security linked to it, they will look for their own security, your own security, before they provide theirs. So it depends, this planning permission, if that's sort of land or something within the business, they might look to secure it against that first, but there isn't at the moment a limitation on what you need to use it for.
Brilliant, excellent, thank you. So I'm done on the questions. We're 15 minutes over. We've still got 24 people on the. Sorry, Andy's. Sorry, it was in answer to Nicola's reply to my previous question. We have an office at home, registered office with us. So.
Yes. So the question was, if you work from home but an accountancy is your registered office, could you claim the rates relief and the grants and that associated with that? The registered office is just what is your office at Companies House. So you wouldn't be paying business rates on your registered office, and that is how they're dealing with this at the moment. They're looking at the business rates payable. So that would be how you wouldn't be able to. So if you wanted to rent premises, you could, but I don't know whether the outlay of that right now is an ideal thing, but we can always cash flow forecast and have a chat about that if that would help you.
Yeah, so basically the registered office, it makes no difference where the registered office is because it's just a service address basically. And you have to have a physical rates bill in order to be able to claim the rates. Yeah, that's the simple answer. Brilliant, thank you. That's done that one, and that's done that one. So they've all disappeared. So we'll just have a quick whip round. Is there, for the people on the panel, is there anything that you would like to share that we've not covered that you think's important for the people watching to take away? So Anna, is there anything that you would like to add?
Nothing my end, unless there is any further questions to be answered.
Brilliant, excellent, thank you. Les, is there anything that you would like to share?
Nothing to add. I would just keep reiterating that the more you can mutually agree with people in terms of measures, the better it will be for you in the long run, because any enforcement always brings you the risk of a tribunal claim down the line. So it's just sit down, explain the problem, and basically these measures are to avoid job losses, and that normally would be a reasonable lever for people to start listening.
Brilliant, thank you, Les. And I would reiterate that. So the conversations that I'm having within the community, and obviously I accept that we're doing this from a marketing point of view, or could be seen to be doing this, but Les and Colin and Sanjay and everybody that's joining in and the people in the community, I think it's fantastic how people are pulling together and sharing and helping each other get through it, and it's a wonderful. So that collaborative nature of it is fantastic. So thank you, Les, for bringing that up. Mark, is there anything that you would like to share?
Well, ironically enough, it's exactly the same as what Les has just said, but with regards to your customers and suppliers. Keep those conversations open, because people will always want to talk and discuss the potential options. And as I said before, look at postponing, look at reducing services rather than cancelling.
Brilliant, excellent. Thank you, Mark. And then Nicola, is there anything? You seem to have done quite a bit of talking. So, and I'm getting loads of thank yous from people that have watched. So valuable to talk. Thank you very much. I feel a lot calmer now. I understand about the tax explanation. So thank you very much. Your contributions have made a difference to a lot of people this morning. So thank you very much for being a part of this. Sorry, Nicola, I cut you off there. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I guess similar to Les and Mark, but in the way that the economy obviously can be affected by the way that people just stop and shut up shop. So if you can liaise with your accountants and talk about what you can do and communicate with suppliers and customers, and even if you can't do everything that you used to do, anything that you can do keeps the economy moving. So anything that you can do by communicating, looking at your financials and looking at, do I need to cut this, or can I just lower it, or sort of working through negotiations at this point in time, then that is the area that I would recommend, as opposed to just sort of closing off.
Brilliant, thank you. And then finally, Ian just said thank you very much, and to the team for the rider assistance. You're very welcome. Lastly, then Sanjay, I hesitate to say one word, but is there something that because I know if I say one word, he'll give me one word. Is there anything that you want to share?
Yeah, just to reiterate, in times of recession, and this is more than a recession right now, the first thing that most businesses cut back on is their development. And I work primarily with the leaders and the bosses of the owners of companies. And the one thing that will really make an impact to them is if they continue to make good decisions and take good actions. But if your mind is cluttered up with all the worries and everything that's going on now, you're not in a state where you're going to make your best decisions. So what I would urge them to do is please look after yourselves first. Yes, we have a duty of care to look after our workforces. We have a duty of care to look after our customers and all of that. But none of that is really going to be possible if you're not putting yourself first and looking after yourself.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay. So that's us finished. I am very aware that I have a list of questions here. I think we've answered most of them, but there are some specific ones on there. If anybody's got a specific question about their situation that we've not answered, then telephone number for GreenStones is 01733 371 180, or email us advice@greenstones.co.uk. The Facebook group is called Peterborough Business Community. So go on Facebook, search for Peterborough Business Community and post the question in there. We've also got a WhatsApp group set up where we're sharing, because the situation's dynamic, we're sharing stuff into that WhatsApp group as the first place in order to enable people to see the information as quickly as possible. So if you, any of these questions that we haven't answered that you want to answer, then please reach out and we will gladly support you as best we can with the information and the knowledge that we've got. So a huge thank you again to the Sanjay and Mark and Anna and Les and Nicola and Colin, who's had to disappear and do some work. Thank you, and thank you very much to everybody that's watched the webinar. We'll sort the recording and send it out, so if there's anything you want to watch, and obviously we'll send Colin's thing, and if Les, you've got anything that you think people might find useful, let us have it and we'll send it out so we can help each other. But that's us done for now. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.